You know, it is I once again. Hello to all of my faithful. Brett Sieber is my name. Host of the FTFL Update is my gig. Of course, on the side, I'm running the Hulkamaniacs, let's be honest, pretty much into the ground. And if there wasn't any more time in the day, as if I also carve out a small amount just to be your king. Jeff Markser, owner of the Mana, three-time Lucky Pants champ Mana. I owed you at least that much. It has been a horrific end of the season, only to be eclipsed, let's be honest, by mine. However, yours did take place in the playoffs. More on that in a moment. Playoffs. Week 1 in the books. 2 games, neither of which were close. 2 teams waiting, sitting idly by, just chomping at the bit, waiting to get themselves in there. And of course, the consolation bracket where everything is just kind of falling to pieces. Unless, of course, you're the Pack Attack. More on that, though, later. Like I mentioned, a couple of teams won this week. Sid delivers with a huge victory. Now, going in, we thought maybe that was going to be the case, and it turned out to be. Markser just completely did not show up, although not also all that unexpected. Ryan Deesum holds on, I'm sure, going into Monday night with Russell Wilson. He was a little bit worried, but probably not a whole lot. He gets the win into the next round. We'll talk about that game later. Of course, Linkowitz and Salty just waiting, sitting, time floating on by. Both of them got some much-needed rest. Salty put up 93.5 during his rest. Linkowitz 105. Not terrible scores. If you're Saltmarsh, kind of the average over the last 5. Again, more on that as we get into matchups for next week. Also this week, the second to last Don't Be Salty segment of the year. And I tell you what, special moment tonight. We are going to run down the top 10 decent moments of the year that was in the FTFL 2018. This is episode 49. Big announcement into the show about episode 50 for next week. But that's next week. We're here to talk about this week, and so we shall. First game in the playoff championship side of the bracket. King of the North coming in, taking on Mana, 3-time Lucky Pants champ. Mana, you still owe me that 7 cents, and I aim to collect, and collection day is coming. I digress. So, if you were Markser, you came into this with 3 people, Bryda, Green, and Connor, all who were in your lineup last week. We noted this, that none of which were going to be available to you this week. You came into this game on just a hope and a prayer, as the juggernaut that is the King of the North looked like they held all of the cards, and by God they did. 144 to 66.5. 77.5 point difference. Now, not the greatest differential this year. We'll talk about that later. But by God, was that a whooping. If you're a Sid, George Kittle 27.5, McCaffrey 21, the Bears defense 20. The only person underneath double digits was Stephon Diggs, that bum, with 6 points. If your marks are Big Ben buzz so little, Roethlisberger 16, Cameron Brate 13, LaShawn McCoy 0. Markser's running backs, who was absolute strength of his team for the first 2/3 of this season, completely fell apart. Injuries, off the field issues, just not showing up. It looked all so promising for Jeff at the 2/3 and maybe even the 3/4 pole mark. But boy, oh boy, did it get ugly in a hurry. If you're Hagen, you move on now into the semi-final round, and you will take on Adam Saltmarsh. Over the last 5 weeks, Sid Hagen has averaged 123.1 points a contest. His opponent for this upcoming week, Adam Saltmarsh of the Radioactive Monkeys, over the last 5 weeks has averaged 94.8. Now, 94 isn't a bad average. However, it is almost 30 points less than the team you will be going up against. I'm not entirely sure we have ever in the history of the FTFL seen a number 1 overall seed be such an underdog in their opening game of the playoffs, but that's what we're looking at. If you're Markser, you're looking at a 5th place game, and your opponent will be Andy because he was the other game in the championship side of the bracket, taking on Ryan Deesum and those old, moldy, slimy, gross, probably pungent-smelling titties and balls. Ryan Deesum coming in with question marks of his own, although it didn't matter, 91.5 to Andy's 61.5. If you're Deesum, Julio Jones, 22. Most of those came on the first drive of the game and didn't do much after that. Andrew Luck, 18 rebounds from his awful performance last week. Travis Kelce, 13.5. Alvin Kamara, 8.5 points. The third time in the last 4 weeks he has scored in single digits. The Saints offense is struggling, and your team is showing for it. However, it's not all of the equation. James White. Where art thou, James White? Through the first 9 games of the season, he was averaging 15 points a go. Over the last 4, he's only averaging 4 points. You take that, you take Kamara's struggle, and you get a slightly less dominant Ryan Deesum. Now, 91.5 points is a good score. However, Linkowitz awaits, and that dude has been putting up hondos. Now, you were the second highest scoring team in the league and only missed out by 2 points. So let's be honest, your team is also ready for this, but are they fully prepared for this? I don't know. I mean, if you're Andy, again, you tried valiantly after your late season push, but you fell short. Edelman, 14.5. Michael Thomas, 11.5. Robert Wood, 7.5. Tevin Coleman, who was a catalyst throughout a lot of your season, again, only 2.5. Didn't show up for this one. You slide into the 5th place game against Jeff Markser. The Pit of Misery, Dilly Dilly, will be playing for a trophy of his own, just like my 5th place trophy I won a few years back. That's right, it's a championship if you win the last game of the season. Speaking of last, this will be the second to last of the season. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, I present to you Don't Be Salty.
Welcome to Don't Be Salty. I'm your host, Adam Saltmarsh, the owner of the Radioactive Monkeys. Yep, we're in playoffs. Some people are like, we made playoffs. Some people are like, nope, we didn't make playoffs. We're playing for the toilet bowls. Some are like, we won this week. We're moving on in the playoffs. Some were waiting for the playoff first round to go by so they could play to make it to the championship game. I'm going to call out some people here. I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it in a fashionable way. These are the top 10 things not to do in your fantasy football league. I don't know if these are the Deesum Award nominations equivalently placed into the realm of fantasy and what the Deesum Award stands for, but here we go. Number 1, pays the league dues. Pays them late or not at all. We've been there. We got a rule for that. Don't do it. Comes to the draft unprepared. Either they lose their laptop computer, they don't have their cheat sheets in line, or they come to the draft over-prepared with Excel spreadsheets made out of stuff that they've calculated between this whole mass array of scientific information, and it's overkill. So there's 2 sides of the story. Number 3, drafting a kicker too early. Or for that matter, keeping a kicker. Need I say more? No. Number 4, bombard the leagues with lame trades. Enough said about that. Moving on. Number 5, forgets to cover their bye week with their players. I have 9 guys sitting on bye week number 7. Whoops, you did it again. Or, I got something. Let's drop a guy because he's on a bye. Pick up another guy that's on a bye. Not too good. Number 6, one of my favorites. Don't respond to trade offers. You know who you are. Number 7, ignoring what is happening in the NFL. Like maybe keeping a keeper that's not even playing? Maybe picking up someone that's hurt. I think we've all been there. Number 8, don't think long term. Don't play for the short term. Play for the longevity. Have 2 tight ends. Have 2 kickers. At 1 defense, you can get by. 1 quarterback. Going into the playoffs. We have a rule for this now. Number 9. Quitting on your own team. Quit managing your fantasy football team. Because you're 2 and whatever. You're 2 and 10 with 2 weeks to go in the season. You know what? But it's more than that. People, have pride in what you're doing here on the FTFL. All right? The integrity of the league. Do it for the integrity of the league. And remember, you might not get invited back for next year. So there you go. Number 10. You complain about everything. It's the scoring system. It's the computer's fault. It's this. You have a beef with everything. The person's not on the website enough. The person's not taking care of their team enough. Your players are all getting hurt. It's all dumb luck. Complains about everything. So if we sum all these things up, my friends, these are top 10 ways of not to be salty.
All right, a few things here. A couple words I have to call into question: equivalently and Masserai. I don't know what either of those really are. When you do a top 10 list, I have to believe you start with number 10 and work your way back to one. You went in the opposite order. I guess 6 and 1, half dozen other, potato, potato, tomato, tomato. It really maybe doesn't fully matter. Made up my own word there, matter. I really did like the dolphin bananas with the grapes in their mouth. I was highly entertained by that. You talk about not quitting on your team. That is exactly what our 6th seed that made the playoffs this year did. Quit on his team. Flat out said, I'm giving up, I'm selling the farm, and then went on a run. So maybe quitting is the best. Homer Simpson once said, the lesson here is just don't try. Maybe not, because it didn't actually work out for Andy in the end. And I couldn't help but notice, you talked about what you didn't want anyone in the league to do, but you didn't actually salt anyone. So guess what? I'm going to do that for you. Jeff and Andy, you both made the playoffs. Way to go. You were in the playoffs, but really, were you in the playoffs? Andy, your team was awful and had this sudden surge to the end. You were lucky just to be there. If you're Jeff Markser, your team was absolutely dominant. Your running backs, again, were the story of the first half of the season, if not 2/3. And you were falling all over yourself on your way in. Both of you made appearances, but let's be honest, it was participatory at best. However, this season is over. The new season is already on the horizon. So for now, the two of you, knock it off. And don't be salty. You're welcome. Speaking of salty, on to the consolation bracket, on to the Hulkamaniacs, and boy, oh boy. I documented it well about our struggles over the last 7 weeks of the season, not being able to break 80 points. Good God, we didn't even make it past 50 this week, taking on the Architect. It just was awful. I looked, Matt, in the could have lost column, had 4. In the standings, in the win column, Matt had 4. Crunch the numbers. That meant that Matt could have gone completely winless this season. As it is, he got 4 regular season wins. He now has a win in the consolation bracket of the playoffs. 2 of those, by the way, at the hands of yours truly, the Hulkamaniacs, who again stumbled their way all the way out of the playoffs and continue to do so. Rogers 16, Chris Carson 12, Green Bay Packers 11. They scored a touchdown, whereas the rest of my team, outside of the 2 aforementioned players, didn't, which pretty much was the story down the stretch. Jared Goff, who I know Adam Saltmarsh has touted I should be starting. Had I made the playoffs, and I started Jared Goff. He got 2 points. So, well, that would have worked out just dandy. If you're the architect, you move on with this win, 75 points to the Consolation Championship. I got one of those too. Ezekiel Elliott, actually, wait. That's a 5th place. This the 3rd, and bless us not forget the league. I don't own a Consolation Championship. Maybe someday. For Matt, Ezekiel Elliott had 18. Kenyon Drake on that wild play at the end tacked on 14.5. Devontae Adams 13.5. Again, he moves on to play Eric for the Consolation Championship because Eric made real quick work of Pump 128. To Adam Swartz, 57.5, a 71.5 point differential. 2 teams losing by more than 70 points this week. Again, not the record. That was set earlier this season, and that's coming up soon as we break down the top 10 decent moments of the year. If you're Eric, Amari Cooper, good God, as he had a huge second half of the season. 41 points, Jarvis Landry 23.5, Gronk and Breeze both tacked on 16. For Adam Swartz, the Pump, the demonic love child of Trump and Putin, 16.5 for Hilton, 13.5 for Aaron Jones. Mason Crosby kicked in 13. Better put him on the keepers list because boy, oh boy, those points aren't easy to come by. If you're Eric, 3 of the last 4 weeks, you have topped the century mark. Where was this after that 3-0 start where you floundered your way to the end? I mean, in some ways, this is coming on. You're peaking at the right time, however, not quite soon enough. You move on to play Matt in the Consolation Championship. Well, Swart, I'll see ya at the bottom of the bowl. Real quick here before we get into next week's games. Start of the week, George Kittle, 27.5 points, an absolute dominant performance, 210 yards before halftime for a team that scored 144 and just thumped the holy bejesus out of Jeff Markser. Speaking of Markser, his running backs get the dud of the week. They combined for 8.5. I remember in the not too distant past where his running backs were combining for 60 points. 8.5. 8.5. What an end to Jeff's season. Oh, what could have been. And here we have it, folks. The DSUM update. This time we ain't got anything new. We're going to break it down for you. The top 10 decent moments of the year. Now, I'm not going to lie, I've got a couple honorable mentions because I really just felt we had to have a couple more than 10. So here we go. Honorable mention number 1, Adam Swartz for losing his draft materials. You got to come better prepared. You got to keep track of your stuff. Yeah, you were hosting in the cat and or Eric broke that vase, but let's be honest. You were a wreck that day. It's no real big surprise you finished in last place. Another one coming to honorable mention was Matt for dropping Albert Wilson for buck $1 Allen, who lasted all of the week. Of course, you're like, wait, Albert Wilson, wasn't that the... It was. And it's coming. But you picked up the Ravens' 4th string running back. You spent $1 that you'll never see again. And you let him go after 1 week. Bravo. Bravo. All right, to the real meat of the meal, the nitty gritty, if you will. Coming in, number 10, decent moment of the year. This one, I laughed every time I looked at it. Eric lost by 90 points. 90 points. He lost by 90. We may never see. I don't even know. How does anybody lose by 90 points? I don't know. Ask Eric. He'll tell you. Oh, gosh. All right, coming to number 9. Brett's 4 losses to end the season and miss the playoffs. Just an absolute crumble fest. Again, 7 straight weeks below 80. If this week included, you got to go 8. I was 5-4 in the driver's seat, and I jumped out of the moving vehicle into oncoming traffic. Just awful. Number 8, back to Eric. His efficiency rating this year was a league low 77%, and he had 5 coulda wins. Turned just one of those into a did win, and you're in the playoffs and your team is rolling, and who knows, but you didn't. So there you are at number 8. Coming to number 7, Patrick Mahomes for a first. And you're like, well, wait, Brett, Patrick Mahomes is a really good player. A first-round draft pick, that's not that bad. I mean, we saw more given up for other players who scored fewer points with Patrick Mahomes. How could that have made the list? I'll tell you why it made the list. You know what? I don't even need to tell you. Drew Brees. Second round pick. Sorry, I had something in my throat there. Coming in at number 6. I had to put this on here, not necessarily any fault of Jeff Markser, but the Kareem Hunt trade. On the surface, it seemed like a lot, and in the end, it ended up being a ton. Now, I get it. Things out of your control off the field, but a diligent general manager may have combed through a few police reports, and I know a guy who likes watching the show. Thumbs up to all those fine folks in blue up in Park Rapids. Maybe he could have got you some dirt on that. All you had to do was ask, brother. Number 5 in the top 10 decent moments of the year, Andy kept Le'Veon Bell. Woo! Again, you were in the... Well, actually, you did squeak into the playoff, but boy, that move cost you. He never showed up, and I can't wait to see where he ends up next year, and maybe, just maybe, you'll keep him. Then again, maybe you'll go for a different position player, if you know what I mean. Number 4 in the top 10 list, both Saltmarsh and I traded away draft picks that we didn't even have. When you want to go read the toilet bowl seat and see exactly what it says about mismanagement and complete lack of understanding to run a competent fantasy football operation, I think somewhere near the top of that list of things you have to do to operate a competent team is know what draft picks you have. Apparently neither of us did because we traded them away. That was number 4. Coming in, number 3, we're getting close, folks. I know you can feel the excitement and the anticipation. Number 3, back to old Albert Wilson. Now, we have had people pick up a player and drop them within an hour. We have had people pick up players like Salty mentioned, Don't Be Salty, that were on the same buy as their guy. We have even had people pick up a player and swear that it was the wrong player of the same first name. But never before had we had someone pick up a player who was on injured reserve. Luckily, 2 individuals made even bigger mistakes than this, which seems kind of difficult, but Matt, holy cow. Take a look. You might want to just spend a little more time on the site. I don't know. But my goodness, number 3, an IR player was surely something. Number 2, Adam Swart started Mitchell Trubisky on Thanksgiving Day, even though he wasn't going to play, costing him a victory. His backup quarterback would have got him the win. He was in a playoff race, albeit hanging on by a thread. However, the thread existed. What didn't was Trubisky's chance of playing that week. Deason pointed it out. The award started in a very similar fashion. You, sir, made a mistake and ended up at number 2, but number 1. We talked about it all year. We talked about it all the way since keepers were due. You knew this is where I was going. Number 1, ladies and gentlemen, John kept a kicker. Now, I know what you're saying, John, but I had a first-round bye. I'm one of the better teams in the league. You are, John. You are. Maybe, just maybe, you could have been even better. Trade away some of those picks. Get a better keeper. I don't know. Even if you end up winning, which I've said from early on that I think that's what's going to happen because we gave you so much grief about keeping a kicker, I still think you're getting this award. Back to the games, back to wrap it up. Of course, John is taking on Deesum. Radioactive Monkeys taking on King of the North in the championship side. Oh, wait, there's one more game. The 5th place championship between Mana Mana and the Pit of Misery Dilly Dilly. Pump taking on Hulk in the Toilet Bowl. Pack Attack taking on the Architect in the Consolation Championship game. And we are about out of time. Andrew McBride, keep getting better. Keep working. Keep biting. We are absolutely behind you. And hey, I said we had a big announcement about next week. Next week is the 50th episode in the history of the FTFL Weekly Update. So you know what we're going to do? We are going live. If you go to my YouTube channel next week, 9 p.m., it is going to be live in color, 9 p.m., FTFL Weekly Update, 50th episode, Christmas extravaganza, championship week, all gonna be there. I hope to see you. Until then, this is Brett Sieber signing off. Peace! Hey, it's a good old friend Bart from Briarville now. I've been talking for a while with my my family about going to get Brett's 7 cents back, and that is what we're going to do. I called a meeting. Let's go see if they're all down here. Wait, sorry about my eye. I'm not very camera friendly tonight. I was out picking up aluminum cans in the ditch, and I got some road spray in there. Her doctor says it's going to be all right. Hey, Bertha. What? You know, I'm busy right now. How long is this going to take? Wait, where's Bertha and Borghild? I don't know. I thought she was going to take a shower or something. I don't know where Borghild is. Why don't you go find him? I got things to do. Fine, I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Bertha, hurry up. Don't forget the courtesy flush, too. What? Hold on, what? Ah! Hey, no, you can't just keep barging in here. I'm not even dressed. Avert your eyes. Avert your eyes. Oh, my eyes. Oh, my eyes. Oh. Hey, I'm gonna go start the van. Y'all hurry up. Let's go. We're gonna get Brett's 7 cents back is what we're gonna do. Let's get him! Yeah! To the van! Woohoo! I can't wait! Hey, don't leave without me! I'm coming! I'm gonna be cold. I should have put some flip-flops. Slide down the back. Anyone know the way to Jeff's place? No, I don't know the way. I should have brought something to knit. Hey! Quiet down. Bart's trying to talk. Don't be doing anything silly. Keep it down to a minimum. I don't want the police to catch on what we're doing here tonight. We're going to get that 7 cents. We're going to get it. Anyone got a crossword puzzle? All right. Wagons East. Ah! Go get that 7 cents. Go get it. Go get Brett 7 cents.